Walter Schroth joins us, brought to you by Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. The setup is that, Walter, yesterday you spoke before the House Environmental Resources and Energy Committee about the effects of the RGGI regulations. This is the multi-state compact that the governor wants Pennsylvania to join and has executed an executive order to make that happen. You say not so fast. Tell us why.
Yes, sir, that's correct, Todd. Well, first of all, as I pointed out in my testimony, there are several reasons. Number one, their proposal does not actually solve the problem that they purport in the regulation. Their goal is to try to reduce the amount of CO2, and it really doesn't do that over the next 10 years. And what it really comes down to is it's a form of a tax. Mm-hmm. And, taxes should be started, I believe, according to our Constitution, in the House, State House, and then work its way through the Senate and then ultimately to the governor's desk. The second thing is it's going to have an absolutely disastrous impact on our small businesses, especially here in Indiana County, that has 3 coal-fired power plants. And, we certainly are going to struggle coming out of this COVID impact to our small businesses in this town, let alone, add something like this to it. And so I really don't think this is the right way. It doesn't solve the problem. It's also going to increase everybody's electric bill. Mm-hmm. And the reason it wants to increase everybody's electric bill is, in a sense, essentially to just get more money for Harrisburg. And while Harrisburg may need more money, this is certainly not the right way to try to approach that problem.
Among the many compelling points that you made yesterday, procedurally, they're just not going about it in the right way. DEP and the governor are pursuing these RGGI regulations. They're asking for small business to sign off on it, but they've not done any studies, serious studies, of what the environmental or what the economic impact will be on those very businesses.
That is correct. When and the people that were briefing us on this were not the rank and file of the DEP. Those folks actually, on the Small Business Compliance Advisory Committee, are excellent, and I certainly want to give a shout-out to them. These are at the command level at the DEP, the top brass. And when they gave the presentation to the Small Business Compliance Advisory Committee, they could not tell us what that impact was going to be on small business. And I made that point to them during that presentation as well as yesterday. How can you go to a small business group that represents those businesses in the Commonwealth and not tell us what that impact is going to be, but yet tell us to approve it? I mean, it's a little bit along the lines of, don't worry about it, read it first, and then approve this, and then we can talk about the details later. And so, you just can't do that.
Well, you have talked about the economic impact, and you did so very well yesterday. And schools, of course, you are intimately involved in terms of your involvement with the Indiana Area School District, and that would have a sort of a ricochet effect on the Indiana Area School District because, for instance, the Homer Center Generating Station, it's been predicted that it's done right away if these RGGI rules take place and take effect, and therefore the Homer Center School District is really hurting, and that impacts us all.
Yes, sir. I do want to apologize to the taxpayers of the school district that I was not at the meeting last night. I understand Julie Tremarky-Kukuru did an excellent job, but I was tied up with this event. And yes, the impacts could be very disastrous to the Armstrong School District, Homer Center School District, and to United. And it would have possibly the impact of making one or more of those districts simply go away at worst case scenario. At best case scenario, they may lose as many as 10% of their teachers and or reduction in programs. And Todd, as you well know, if we're going to survive as a society and maintain our position in the world, education is the key to that, because it's the key to jobs, job development, and the entrepreneurship that comes from the new technologies. So we absolutely have to have that strong education system.
You spoke yesterday as well about the effect of the loss of jobs. One of those primary effects would be the number of young folks, particularly, who would have to leave this area because jobs just disappearing, drying up, and blowing away like that. They have to make a living somewhere. If they leave the area, obviously this area is so hard hit financially, economically. If families are torn apart, it's a chain reaction, isn't it?
Yes, sir. As I mentioned in the testimony, there's an intricate web between all of the small businesses, and you really create these mini economies, particularly around something as large and powerful as a power plant. When you break that chain, okay, it affects everybody in that chain. The problem that we have, at least from my perspective, is that particularly here in Indiana County, we're not always keeping our good young people in the county because those better high-paying jobs simply don't exist here. Right now, they are mostly energy-driven. So and this wasn't just about coal, RGGI also will affect natural gas. And of course, as you all know, we have a natural gas-fired power plant down here in Schroth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it will affect their operations as well because it will be a tax on them. But if you end up driving all of the young people out of here because there are no jobs, then my question to the governor and to the other politicos is, who's going to pay the taxes in the future?
Yeah.
You know, my son is hopefully going to become the fourth generation owner of Schroth Industries, and he's moved back from his schooling in Idaho in wildland fire ecology. And but there aren't a lot of wildland fire ecologists in Pennsylvania. As we've heard on the news recently, there's a lot, though, that are used in California, Colorado, Wyoming, far west. My wife and I are at retirement age. What happens when Schroth Industries closes because of RGGI? He's not going to stay.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to move. He's our only child. We're moving with him. End of story.
Yeah. Yeah, and we can see that effect on people and families all throughout. And some will have the ability to move out, others will be left behind. And what happens to Indiana County's economy? It's a very, very, very dangerous proposition for what will be happening. You spoke yesterday on a number of different topics. What were, in your mind, the most important things people should know about RGGI and Pennsylvania's potential involvement in it?
Okay, the biggest thing I think, Todd, is that the RGGI rules do not solve the problem, have not solved the problem in the other states that have been involved in it. Yes, from a very technical point, they have reduced their CO2 levels over the last 10 years, those that got in at RGGI initially. They did so by shuttering their fossil fuel powered plants, and then they transferred their purchases of electric to other states, including Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania right now is an exporter of electric energy. Okay, if we shut down our plants, we're simply going to we're not going to stop the CO2 that's going out. We're just going to simply shift a lot of that demand into Ohio and West Virginia and buy from their coal-fired and gas-fired power plants instead. So why are we doing this? Why are we getting rid of our good-paying jobs if we're going to go someplace else to buy the electricity? Yes, solar and wind are on the horizon. There are technical issues that make them not inexpensive energy, and it's going to take a while to get there with that technology. We can't just turn around. You mentioned Homer City would be basically gone. As I understand the RGGI regulations, it mandates that all coal-fired power plants in Pennsylvania be shut down by the end of 2022. That means all three of these plants would be gone in about 2 years.
Yeah, yeah. And as you said, we become then an importer of energy. Electricity bills just absolutely skyrocket, and it doesn't address the problem that is identified by the environmental regulations, CO2, in any way. And in 10 years, the problem is just as bad or worse.
As a forester, okay, with my forestry background, CO2 is plant food. I know Senator Pittman has talked a little bit about some carbon sequestration technologies, but one of the oldest technologies is plant more trees and manage your forest better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so but none of that is in that bill. It's all about the money. It's all about a tax that we're going to have to pay on our electric bill, basically.
Yeah, you made a great point yesterday about the difference between a fee and a tax as well. Walter
Yes,
Schroth, you have been very kind to join us this morning. I know you've got an extra busy schedule. There's somebody waiting on the phone for you right now.
Probably the same guy called in a little bit ago.
I want to thank you for spending some time with us today, though. It's been informative.
All right. Thank you, Todd.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.